What's up, everybody? How you doing? It's Monday, the best day of the week, right? We are live here, YouTube Live, everything Phoenix style, and you know how we get down. We are going to cover nuts and bolts. We're going to get right into it. We're going to cover some good things that are happening here in the marketplace when it comes to Phoenix and what's going on with the housing market. Of course, we got to cover that because this is a real estate related news channel that we're not going to have an agenda. We're not going to worry about what this person thinks or that person thinks. We're just going to give you the facts, the raw data, and let you decide for yourself because that's what media should be. And that's what we're striving for here on Everything Phoenix. And if you agree with that, give me a thumbs up, like our channel, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it and get us out to more people who could benefit from non-biased data about the housing market and development and all the future that is happening here in our great city of Phoenix, Arizona, and of course, all the surrounding suburbs. So we're going to jump right in like we always do at this point, guys. We're going to rock and roll and get things going. But if you wouldn't mind first, just feel free. If you have any questions, you have any comments, let's make this a two-way conversation and let's get some comments going here on the video. Or if you're watching the replay, leave us a comment, thoughts on certain things. Let's get a organic conversation going. That's what it's all about, right? And it makes it more exciting that way anyways. And you can also put where you're watching from. I'd love to know where you're watching from today if you have the moment to put it on our comment section as well. Guys, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going on what's going on with the housing market. Are we balanced? Are we balanced now? Are we a little more seller focused now? I know it's felt like it's been kind of balanced for a little while. But guys, the data would show you that it's not. In fact, most of the cities, suburbs, as you know, we cover, actually are not balanced. They're not in a balanced market. Per the data, it's a seller's market. Now, there are some suburbs that are a balanced market, and there are some that are a buyer's market. And for a while, Queen Creek, Buckeye, Maricopa, those bigger suburbs have been in a buyer's market, which has been great if you're a buyer or an investor. You have more leverage to pick up a property in today's housing market. All right, but we're going to cover the general housing market. We're going to see where the opportunity lies potentially, and if we are, in fact, in a balanced market. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get after that right now. Now I'm going to go to the Cronford report and show you right now, as you can see on this screen, we are in a balanced market. Officially, the data, not how you feel, not how I feel, but the data says we are in a balanced market. So I guess congratulations if you're looking to be a buyer anytime soon. Congratulations, you have more leverage now in purchasing that property. Give us a call if we can help out with any purchasing needs, whether you're an investor or a buyer. You can reach me at 480-660-5974. I'd love to help you out, guys, but let's dive into this. You guys know that a balanced market with the Cronford report is anything between 90 and 110. In fact, I'll put this up on the screen here just as a reminder for you why we talk about this. If you're below 90 on the Cronford Market Index, which takes in a bunch of different data points when evaluating a housing market or a sector, whether it be a zip code or a city, whatever it may be. And if you're below a 90, it's a buyer's market. You do have more leverage overall as a buyer. Sellers have less. Now, obviously, if you're in a balanced market, it should be somewhat just that, balance. But if you're above 110, you are in a seller's market by definition of data. Now, obviously, real estate is a micro market niche, okay? It is a market niche, and it's dependent on micro markets. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get a smoking deal in this neighborhood just because the city is in a buyer's market. Maybe that one subdivision you want to buy in is going to be very, very much so in demand for whatever reason, and therefore you don't have as much leverage. But generally speaking, that's what we're talking about here, guys. So I'm going to get rid of this, and we're going to talk more about this section of the buyer's market. So you look at here, the supply. The supply is still low, guys, but it's low, meaning it's green. That's why it's green, because it's low. If this was super high in the red and demand stayed where it was in the red, which is not good, we would have a problem in terms of prices coming down. But because supply and demand is still somewhat balanced, therefore the overall market index being at 106.4, a balanced market, you're not seeing prices moving much. Okay. Matter of fact, we talked about this April to April, year over year, the market went up over 7% in Phoenix, even though interest rates were over 7% for the vast majority of the time. Well, why is that? Well, remember, it is because at the end of the day, even though it feels like prices should be coming down, they weren't because of economics being at play, supply and demand. You have low demand, lower than normal, but you have lower supply than normal as well, keeping prices in check or in line, or in this case, still actually appreciating. Very interesting. So if you go back here, let's talk about the most recent up-to-date information here with the Chronicle report. The daily observations from June 1st here, just a couple days ago, says this: the resale market is cooling as supply continues to climb while demand remains subdued. Okay. One good way to measure this is through the contract ratio. That's the number of active listings without a contract based on the number or compared against the number of listings under contract. It really has the pulse of the market, the thumb on the market right here, right, when it comes to the contract ratio. So where does it currently stand? For all areas and types, the contract ratio has dropped 15%. Hello, 15% from 54 to 46 over the last month in general. This compares poorly with 77 as of June 1st last year in 2023. The current 46.1 reading represents a balanced market with buyers finding plenty of supply to choose from and sellers experiencing more competition from each other than they have for the past decade. Pretty crazy, right? You can use a contract ratio for small segments of the market to check whether the above comments apply to the segments which you are most interested. So like I said, guys, if you are looking in a specific zip code subdivision, we can break this down with that contract ratio so you know exactly where your leverage stands if you're looking to buy or sell, whatever it may be. Give us a call. We would love to help out. Again, 480-660-5974. Now, what does this mean in layman's terms? Well, this is a bunch of data. Whoa, I hope I just didn't freak some people out right here with all these numbers, but let's look at just a couple really quick. When I say, guys, the Chronicle report's great for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons it's great is because when I say it's up-to-date information, it is up-to-date information. You just read, or I just read for you, that June 1st, 2 days ago, the contract ratio is at 46, I think 46.1. Well, guess what? Now it's already changed 2 days later, and that was even taking the weekend into consideration. So if you go over to here, you can see now the contract ratio right here. I wish I could highlight this. I can't on my cursor, but right here, you can see it moving. Contract ratio 44.7. It's even dropped 2 points almost in the past 2 days, which is not good. What that means effectively, guys, is that more homes are coming in the market, less homes are going under contract. Now, obviously, still homes are. You can look right now. This is all from Maricopa County, and you look at pending listings, 4,805 currently, and then you look at listings under contract, total 8,000. Well, 8,000 is still a healthy number, but look, you had 2 years ago, it was 10,000. Last year, it was 88. Okay, so it's still less than where we currently stand right now, while increase of active listings are going up. So it's a double whammy. You can sit there and go, well, last year it was 8,888, right? And now it's 8,014. So not that big of a drop off on listings going under contract. But look at the active listings, 21,153 compared to 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, 15,214. So you have more supply coming on the market. It's a trickle. It's like that faucet, that leaky faucet. It's kind of pesky, right? It just won't shut off, but it's not like enough to maybe make you call the plumber because it drips once every, 3 minutes. That's kind of what's happening right now. But slowly and surely it's going that direction, guys. So again, what does all this mean? That means the market is balanced overall and the trend is going in the other direction. Now, the one thing that's not great for this is the fact that you have a trend that's usually not this early going down. Okay. If I can show you, I think one more thing, let's see if I can get this, this going here. I want to show you this, if this will work. Let's see here, guys. Let's see if this pulls up. I'm going to share my screen for you guys here. Okay. It's a long-term chart coming up here. It's a lot of data. You can see balance right here. Okay. That blue line running right through it. And you can see where we stood recently over the years. Now, all that to say, again, the trend line typically is that you see in the seasonality of the market taking place, and where you get to July and you see the market start to go down a little bit in terms of the overall balanced effect, right? The supply comes up a little bit, the demand goes down a little bit, and you start seeing a more advantageous scenario for most buyers when it hits July. And then August, school starts up for most school districts, if not already by end of July for those year-round school districts. And you start seeing more normality start to take place in the market. So you see demand start to come back a little bit more, and then it kind of increases in terms of activity, just the demand side we're talking about through November or so. So that being said, you don't see the trend start to curtail this early, which is not a good indicator right now for the market in Phoenix. So if rates were to come down, that would certainly help kickstart this a little bit. But that's a big if. We don't know right now. In fact, the sentiment amongst most people that rates are not going to come back down. But the Federal Reserve, what had they said? The Federal Reserve has said that now, instead of curtailing or cutting rates 3 times in 2024, now this sentiment is that they're hinting towards only maybe having a rate cut once in 2024. Now, could that change and go back up to 2 or 3? Of course it could. Could that change and go to 0? It could do that as well. So we'll see what happens. But if I share my screen here, let me go to the article here that I believe is important to talk about. All right. Home sellers are dropping prices, but don't celebrate yet if you're a prospective buyer. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. There's a for sale sign, of course. And what do they have to say? Well, this is data coming from Redfin, which is national data, okay? The Redfin real estate company, of course, shows a 6.4%, that 6.4% of active listings on the platform had a price drop through the week ending May 26. While that's not a massive portion of listings, the percentage is substantially higher than 4.4% of listings with price drops recorded during the same time last year. Okay. So the percentages are going up. It's also a higher percentage than 22 and 21, but I think we all would expect probably that. All right. So where's the hiccup of all this? Interest rates. Weird. Interest rates, and more interest rates. They are still high. So the housing market is still being held back, both in terms of supply and demand, says Redfin or Fairweather from Redfin. Okay. Many people who are first home buyers are going to the rental market instead of buying because it's more affordable in the short term. That is true in most cases. Okay. Now, what are the 2 exceptions to this, guys? Remember, there's 2 exceptions to this, right? There really are. Short term, we're talking short term only, because if you go to a rental house, you're probably going to sign a 1-year lease. Well, what if you could get a 1-year rate buy down on your mortgage? What if you could? What if you signed a 2-year lease? Well, what if you could get a 2-year rate buy down on your mortgage? They're making your mortgage payment more affordable. Either way, you're gambling, right? Because in 2 years, yes, if rates haven't come down, you could just maybe sign a 3rd year on that lease that you're going to have for yourself. But maybe you had to move again because that person won't do an extension on your lease. Maybe they would. There's a lot of question marks in the future as to what that could happen. But if rent did stay cheaper on year 3, then yes, your 2-1 buy down of your mortgage loan would increase back up and therefore cause renting to be cheaper in that scenario. But what if it didn't? What if rents went up? What if mortgage rates came down? There's a lot of what ifs, since you're gambling on the future either way, whether you're looking to rent or buy, but buying with the intention of getting a 2-1 mortgage rate buy down. Now, real quick, what is that? If you don't know, that is when you have enough negotiation leverage when you go to buy a house, which right now you do, being the fact that we're in a balanced market in Phoenix, and you negotiate the seller, not you, the seller, to pay a 2-1 rate buy down, which could be in the ballpark of, depends on the price point, but could be in the ballpark of, $8 to $10 to $12 to $15,000, somewhere in that ballpark. But if the seller pays for it, you're not covering the cost, and yet you're receiving the benefit of that buy down. So what does that look like? Well, if your if your rate was, 7.5%, let's say, today, if you were to call up a loan officer and get quoted a interest rate, then that means in year 1, it'd be 5.5% for the entire year. In year 2, it goes up to 6.5%. And then in year 3, and therefore the rest of the term of the loan, you would be at that fully indexed approved rate of 7.5%. So you're gambling on the fact that rates are going to come down at some point in the next 2 years. But if you're going to rent, are you still not gambling that rent will stay the same of where it is in 2 years from now as well? I think you are a little bit. Now, maybe you can sign a 3-year lease. And so there's all these scenarios that maybe a 4-year lease, right? There's all these scenarios that go into play with all these things that you could manipulate the data, but it just comes back to what you're assuming the future is going to be like, whether you're renting or you're buying. But either way, it's something you could do. And again, if you have leverage, maybe the leverage piece isn't, hey, I'm going to get a much lower price on this house, because most people buy monthly payments, right? They buy monthly payments. And so maybe the leverage piece is, the way you should look at it is that I'm not going to get a lot of money off the price of the house I want to buy, but I'm going to get a 2-1 or maybe even a 3-2-1, a 3-year mortgage rate buy down, making my house much more affordable in the short term, as if I was going to rent, considering rent is cheaper in most cases right now. Food for thought. Let us know if you have any questions about that. Want to walk through a case specific study for yourself in your terms on your situation. Be happy to do that, guys. We love and I dig all this stuff. It's a blast, right? It's a passion of mine. All right, here we go. So let's go back to this article about from Redfin, and they're talking about the idea that homeowners are hesitant or they're locked in to the existing homes is widespread, driven by extremely low interest rates on home mortgages during the height of the pandemic. The Federal Reserve began hiking rates rapidly in 2022 to fight off inflation, of course. Okay. So where is this going to go from here? Well, there's another article right here I want to share with you guys, okay, regarding that locked-in effect. What does that mean? The locked-in effect, the title of this article, is hitting home buyers. It may get worse. Interesting, okay? But I think we all kind of know what this means, but here's the part I want to share in this article. Americans expect high mortgage rates to rise, not go down, rise even more in the coming years, a perspective that could further dampen the housing market. Well, yeah, of course it would. But the survey done by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York right here now says they found Americans expect mortgage rates to climb from just under 7%, they are now, up to 8.7% a year from now, and in 9.7 in 3 years from now, the highest recorded since the agency started asking Americans that question in 2014. The pessimism around mortgage rates comes as the Federal Reserve has held off cutting interest rates after spending much of 2002 raising them to curb inflation. Okay, the officials have said likelihood of the Fed raising rates again is low, is what officials have said. And the housing market industry is holding its breath on what future interest rates look like. This is interesting, right? This is very interesting. Now, the tightened inventory leads to soaring housing costs. Guys, can we talk about that? That's the biggest issue right now. And so this locked-in effect where most people feel like they can't move because they have a 30-year fixed or 15-year fixed interest rate locked at 2.75% or something crazy low like that is what's causing these issues primarily when it comes to the affordability. So what could be done to potentially get some of these people to get out of their current 2.75% mortgage and go into something else, which would cause more inventory to come on the market and more options for buyers to purchase? Well, we know the answer. It's dropping the interest rates. And I don't think, guys, that you have to drop the interest rates that far. I really don't. I think you could probably drop the interest rates, I don't know, a point. I mean, we know these articles that have said, from Newsweek to MBS Highway, have said that there's 4 to 5 million buyers supposedly willing to come off the fence and jump into the housing market if rates come down for just 1 percentage point on the 30-year fixed. But even if you're just half of that, that's still a lot of people jumping into the housing market, which would really help kind of move things along, guys, because the housing market thrives off transactions, off things happening, transactions closing, not necessarily everything else. It's primarily the fluidity of transactions occurring, and there's so many different jobs and job industries that are dependent on the housing market and transactions occurring. All right. So let's go back here and let's chat about this a little bit further. All right. Now, what's interesting is baby boomers and millennials, if you want to break this down, this is kind of interesting. I thought they're in a housing market tug of war. They found the length of time people stay in their homes has more than doubled since 2006. In that year, the median homeowner spent about 6.5 years in a home. That number peaked to 13.4 years in 2020 and then dipped to 11.9 years in 2023. Call it about 12 years, right? About 56% of baby boomers have lived in their home for at least 10 years, according to the study, while 35% of Gen Xers have lived in their home for the last decade. Just 7% of millennials have stayed in their home 10 years or longer. But that's millennials, right? They haven't been homeowners that long just yet, and they're usually buying that first entry-level home and looking to move up. The homes older Americans own also tend to be larger. Redfin found that empty nester baby boomers own twice as many 3-bedroom plus homes as do millennials with kids. Okay. But here you go. This report found that 73% of baby boomers have been in their current homes for 11 years or more. And over half own homes built in 1980 or earlier that have never been renovated. And majority say they have no plans to do so either. And so, guys, this is why home flippers will continue to have a market to work within, because homes need to be renovated over periods of time. And there's a lot of baby boomers who haven't moved for a long time that will be selling at some point, maybe to liquidate some of their equity, or because unfortunately the time has come and they pass away, and then therefore it has to be sold to somebody who's going to remodel the house, right? So interesting there. Now, this is another report here. Valley homes now less affordable for earlier generations, or then earlier generations, report finds. Well, we know that, duh. That's kind of like the obvious, right? But what they have to say in here is somewhat interesting. Scottsdale has seen the biggest affordability change over the years. In 1970, the median family annual income in that city was $12,000, and the median value of a home was $22,900 in 1970. By 2022, those numbers have jumped to $140,000 for the median income in Scottsdale, and $651,800 for home value. That's very interesting, right? So the affordability obviously has gone up, but of course, inflation is the main driver of all of this, and it's not getting better. But right here, housing is 3.7 times more unaffordable in Los Angeles and 3.17 times more unaffordable in Oakland. 7 of the 10 cities that have seen the steepest price hikes were in California. Okay. But here you go. The report noted the tech industry had a role in creating a situation in which people are being priced out of the market. We kind of figured that one, with 14 of the top 20 cities of lost affordability being ones known for their tech talent, such as Austin, Texas. Okay. Where is the most affordable homes? Go take a shot at this one, guys. Check this out. Cities where housing demand is low provided a rare contrast in the report. Detroit is the one city in the nation where homes are actually more affordable today than they were in 1970, despite inflation. Oh, man, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, where Cleveland is almost as affordable as well. They're right behind Detroit, Cleveland. I'm sorry, Detroit and Cleveland. You've got a bad rap across the country for a lot of things over the years, but man, this is a good thing for you guys for affordability. So if you want affordability to own a single family house, you may want to check out Detroit, Michigan, or Cleveland, Ohio. But one thing we know is that tech is driving the tech sector, the job market, the population influx is driving, unfortunately, the affordability issues that some cities are having, like Austin. Phoenix is one of those right now too, as well. Speaking of job market and driving the unaffordability of housing market, well, what is that sector that's really driving that for Phoenix? I'm glad you asked. Here we go. We're going to dive right in. Betting on chips, technology. We talked about this right now. That article just talked about it. So, guys, bear with me here. After we cover these couple articles right here that I'm going to share with you right now, you tell me, based on what the previous article just said about the tech sector driving cities' unaffordability in the housing market, you tell me if you believe in the next 5 years if housing will get cheaper or maybe a little more expensive in Phoenix, Arizona. Here we go. All right, betting on chips, how Arizona is preparing for a flood of new semiconductor jobs. A flood is coming of new semiconductor jobs, guys. And these jobs are typically higher paying. Not all of them, but some are higher paying, right? And so with that, people can afford more housing and other things as well. And so they're going to be maybe more apt to spend money on a house to buy for themselves and the family. But here we go. There is community colleges now that are Maricopa Community Colleges are now partnering with the industry to have a 10-day semiconductor technician training program, okay, for technicians in the semiconductor space. All kinds of things are being done to try to gear up and ramp up the job market for people to have enough workers, if you will, for these positions that are coming available due to Phoenix being literally one of the largest manufacturers of semiconductors in the entire world, okay? By the end of the decade, the U.S. semiconductor industry is projected to face a shortage of 70,000 workers needed to run fabs and make chips using computers, smartphones, appliances, and vehicles according to the Semiconductor Industry Association. Now, last time I checked, computers, smartphones, appliances, and vehicles are pretty important to daily living, at least in America, that's for sure. And so there's a big opportunity here, if you ask me. In Arizona, TSMC and Intel are set to receive billions in federal money for all of this deal. And the two companies alone, guys, okay, listen up. The two companies alone expect to create a combined total of more than 9,000 manufacturing jobs. Now, guys, this is not the old school Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit manufacturing jobs. These are innovative, future-facing, forward manufacturing jobs in the tech industry that are needed, like we talked about, computers, cell phones, vehicles, etc. These are very important things that they impact the daily living of Americans and people around the world. Let's be honest, right? Not just America, but anybody that has a population that likes cell phones. I mean, that's pretty much the whole world, right? For the most part. To answer the calls for skilled workers, companies, academia, and state officials are championing a handful of apprenticeship programs, all kinds of stuff. We won't go into all that, but the point is that there is a tidal wave of new tech jobs coming to Phoenix, right? Especially in the arena of the semiconductor space, right? And the federal government is placing all kinds of money and putting all kinds of money behind these things for Phoenix, specifically in our local economy, to get these things to work and make sure there's plenty of skilled labor for these jobs that are coming down the pike here in Phoenix. So it's a pretty cool opportunity, guys. Big opportunity here. Now, go to the next one here. By the way, speaking of TSMC, the New York firm wins major land auction for the site around the TSMC in Phoenix. There's the manufacturing plant coming up that we are talking about ad nauseum. You're probably sick of that, but it's such a big thing for Phoenix, guys. But as a result, a company out of New York just spent $56 million for, I think, about 2,000 acres, 23 acres, actually, of land surrounding TSMC to build a campus, a science and technology park, modeled after the TSMC corporate park in Taiwan, which is going to be just incredible, guys. There's the only guy who bid, the New York firm. They got the project, and they're planning a $7 billion project around TSMC, guys. That's going to be an oasis of science, technology, etc. And what an opportunity for North Phoenix. Oh my goodness. Again, there's the tech park. There's a little map, so you can see kind of what's scheduled to happen here around TSMC, mixed-use tech park, etc. And it's just going to be incredible, guys. So, wow, what an opportunity for Phoenix. And then another one here, guys, manufacturing. Phoenix well-positioned to benefit from manufacturing boom, report says. So now I just said it, but if you don't believe me, here's the Phoenix Business Journal saying the same thing, guys. And this is not TSMC right here. This is LG. I think most of us have heard of this company. LG Energy Solutions are now starting construction on a new battery manufacturing plant in Queen Creek in the Southeast Valley. So, wow, Phoenix has the largest manufacturing pipeline in the country out of 100 markets surveyed, according to a new report from commercialsearch.com. Pretty crazy, guys. Pretty crazy. So I just want to share this with you because this is not just semiconductor. This is also manufacturing in general across the board. And if you don't believe me, here's another one. Komatsu, okay, a Japanese company that specializes in manufacture of construction, mining, forestry, and heavy industrial equipment. They are going to be occupying a new project that's a 240,000 square foot facility in Mesa, being built out by Sunbelt Investment Holdings. Wow. I mean, just more and more Komatsu coming its way to Phoenix, guys. Phoenix is a hub for manufacturing in the short and long term, and it's here to stay. Switching gears now with all that manufacturing, all that job, that's creation that's happening. Now what? How's the commute times, by the way? 4 Valley cities ranked in top 25 with decreased commute times in Phoenix. Now, that's not something you hear every day, right? A decreased commute times. But here they are. They are Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, all in these Valley, and then, of course, Peoria in the Northwest Valley. The study revealed that despite a nationwide increase in average daily commute, Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, and Peoria have seen a decrease in their commute time over a 10-year period. This is interesting. Now, there are cities that have not. In fact, some of the cities here are located in Phoenix. They are Glendale, number 47, Peoria, 53, Gilbert, Phoenix, Chandler, Mesa, Scottsdale, okay? So, and Tempe. But here's what they base it off of. This is they base it off, commute times are based off people who are working full time. They work 49 weeks per year, and they work on a 5-day work week schedule. Okay. and they surveyed workers in 170 most populated cities. And so there you have it. So it's pretty cool, right? The average daily commute time, if you didn't know, in Mesa is 45.2 minutes. Okay. It went down from 2012. Gilbert is 52. Chandler is 45. Peoria is 53. So pretty cool. All right. Year over year, the average round trip commute has increased by 9 hours per year nationally. Okay. On average, the full-time worker in America who commutes to work spends 9 full days commuting a year. All right. Interesting, right? So kudos to those cities in Arizona for figuring out transportation to get people around a faster way. Sky Harbor, speaking of transportation, Sky Harbor International Airport records busiest tourism season ever, guys. From January to April, our tourism season, the height of it here in Phoenix, Arizona, they recorded 4.5 million total passengers, up 6.2% from last year. Phoenix is booming. Another flight to Canada now set for Phoenix Sky Harbor. So now direct from Phoenix, you can fly to Toronto on Porter Airlines for all our Canadian friends out there that are hopefully watching Everything Phoenix YouTube Live right now. And then one more. The demand for Air France's Phoenix to Paris flight nonstop is higher than expected, guys. People are going to Paris. And guys, this might have something to do with it because I swear on Facebook or Instagram, looking at people I know, friends, whatever, there is like 10 people that I know specifically that are in Paris like last week. So maybe it has something to do with this nonstop flight that now Air France has direct to Paris from Phoenix. Pretty cool. And then here we go. A few more things and we're done, guys. We're getting close to the end. Stick with me. Here we go. First look, more development. Buckeyes Verrado Marketplace with Target, Safeway, and Harkins gets final approval. Guys, here it comes. The district is coming to Verrado in Buckeye in the next several years, okay? And then on top of that, there's going to be another development center just south of the I-10 next to Verrado and Buckeye there, anchored by none other than our favorite friend, Costco, which is very important to have, right? And then Home Depot is looking at it as well as Dick's Sporting Goods to be there as well. So Buckeye, Verrado, you're coming up, continuing to grow. Buckeye is a huge boom in the future. Great long-term play, by the way. And then you have another thing. Everything can't be positive, guys, but here's this interesting. The commercial real estate loan delinquency is still growing, but a slower pace as lenders rework deal terms. Guys, we talked about this months ago. What will happen when a lot of these big loans in the commercial real estate space reset? Well, now you're seeing what's happening. Actually, the U.S. banks increased to 1.25% in the first quarter. That's the delinquency rate. And so, guys, what does that mean for the overall economy? Is that a hint to anything? I don't know if it is. I think it very well could be. But if the lenders somehow rework most of these deals to where the delinquency rate just continues to stay very, very low, 1% or less, or maybe even, well, it's always going to be something probably, right? Then that's a very good thing for the economy if they can get that done. But we'll see. And that remains to be determined because, guys, a lot of stuff is happening with the commercial real estate market. And that's a good indicator as to what is happening overall market. Are people investing? Are people building? Now, in Phoenix, I think it's pretty obvious. Yes, they are. Matter of fact, Phoenix is the #1 ranked city for commercial industrial growth when it comes to space and industrial buildings being built and square footage being available for businesses to rent and store their products. So that's pretty darn cool. Last but not least, I'll share my screen here, guys, and we'll end here on a few more things. The daily 30-year fix, by the way, is 7.11%, and it is actually decreased, not even a tenth of a point over the past day or so. And then inflation. I want to hit this really quick, guys. Inflation feels bad no matter how you define it, okay? What's interesting, you have this odd dichotomy right now between the consumer who feels it big time right now in everything we're buying, from Big Macs at McDonald's to bread or eggs at the grocery store to your gas prices and clothing, everything in between. And it sucks. People are feeling it. But for whatever reason, the major problem is that the economists don't see it being that bad right now. I think it's measured most recently in the threes. And so that would, threes, it's not that bad. Well, it's still bad at the grocery store. It's still bad at the fast food restaurant or the sit-down restaurant you go to. So when will it get better? Hopefully pretty soon. We don't know, right? We all can hope. But right now, inflation just is not going away. And therefore, you see the Fed keeping the rates high and not coming off their number just quite yet. And if this stays high, whereas the consumer still feels it in their pocketbook and prices of these things don't come down, well, then you're probably not going to see rates come down much very, very soon either, which is direct correlation, unfortunately. So, anyways, I wanted to touch on that. And last but not least, we're going to leave you with some good news. If you ever wanted a go-kart track in your own backyard, there's a house for sale in Gilbert right now that has that, as well as a huge man cave and an underground shooting range. And you can get it for the cool price of just $20 million. And there's a picture of the backyard. That's pretty sweet. So again, here's the problem. If you're going to buy that house, you better hopefully not want to resell it sometime soon, because that would be like a record of all records for the East Valley with that price point. So hopefully you can get it for half of that, which I doubt this guy will sell it for that much. But if you want that house, you're gonna get it for 20 million. Be prepared to hopefully not get the money maybe necessarily back out of it for any time real soon, at least, right? Buying it in Gilbert. Now, if that house is in PV or Scottsdale, a little bit different story, because people are used to paying those kind of numbers in that area. But down in Gilbert, that's going to be a tough one to sell. But we'll follow it. We'll track it. If it sells, who knows? I guess if you have like $100 million sitting around or more, and you want to go-kart track in your backyard, maybe you just go ahead and start the check. I don't know, but it could happen. Guys, that's it for us today for Everything Phoenix. Thank you for sticking with us a little bit over time today, but hopefully you got value out of it. And if you don't mind liking us and subscribing to our channel, we really appreciate it, and get us out to more and more people out there in the universe. Thank you, guys. And as always, until next week, remember, Phoenix, keep it classy. See you guys.